Welcome to Future Focus, the NextGEN OD Canada podcast, your go-to source for insights and inspiration as you navigate your optometry journey.
Whether you're a student or a recent graduate in your first few years of practice, we're here to help explore the topics that matter: career paths, job opportunities, board preparation, and more.
Each month, we'll bring you expert guests and practical tips to help you thrive in the world of optometry.
And we'd like to thank our exclusive sponsor, I Recommend. I Recommend is a dynamic network of independent optometrists committed to delivering personalized, comprehensive eye care. They offer outstanding career opportunities across various optometry specialties and provide signing bonuses, mentorship programs, and access to exclusive world-class events and education. With a vast network of experts and clinics nationwide, they empower optometry students and recent graduates to build successful and rewarding careers.
So stay tuned and let's shape the future of optometry together on Future Focus, the NextGEN OD Canada podcast.
And we're really excited to introduce our guest for our episode today. We have Dr. Ritesh Patel. He's a Toronto native optometrist, graduated from the New England College of Optometry in 2007. He practiced in Cincinnati, Ohio, where he treated the Cincinnati Bengals NFL team, which is pretty cool, before returning to Toronto in 2010 to lead the Herzig Eye Institute's dry eye clinic, pioneering the LipiFlow thermal pulsation device. And in 2013, he founded C&B Scene Eye Care. As an industry leader, Dr. Patel consults for major pharmaceutical companies, lectures for medical associations, and was even voted one of Toronto's top optometrists between 2016 to 2019. And he's also very passionate about giving back through missions with Optometry Giving Site and Vosh.
And today, Dr. Patel will be sharing his experience and insights on the importance of mentorship for optometry students and new grad doctors. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Love the show and just love being part of being able to shape what the next gen looks like. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're really excited too. I think the topic for today is so important for optometry students because they're most of them are probably just about to graduate, the ones that are listening, and they don't know what to expect from the outside world because they're just stuck in those four walls of school. And it can be really daunting to talk to graduated optometrists, seasoned optometrists too. It can be very nerve-wracking to actually talk to people and ask questions. So mentorship in my mind is very important. And yeah, I think we're excited to learn your experience with mentorship and to get advice from you on how students can really use mentorship, to their advantage and not be scared of it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think you're literally doing that as we speak right now. And just the whole idea of having conversations like this, being open-minded, sharing ideas with each other, and literally having conversations like this resonate, and they just make a difference in terms of being able to help that person or each other feel that much more comfortable, be able to lead on each other, be able to kind of push each other and drive the profession forward.
Yeah. And so let's get started, Dr. Patel, with our first question. Why do you believe that mentorship is important for optometry students and new graduates that are entering the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I think mentorship is great for everybody. You don't even have to be as an optometrist or even in optometry school. For myself, I've been fortunate enough to be able to ask for advice and get that guidance throughout my schooling, and ultimately as it led to optometry school and the profession, and then I've graduated and be able to go from there. So the idea there would be is having that mentorship and guidance, regardless of where you are in your schooling or your career. But certainly in terms of the significance of it is be able to, we all learn, we're human. We all learn by making our own mistakes and learning from them. And there's an old saying about fail as fast as you can so you can get back up that much faster. And certainly there's, mistakes that you'd rather not have to bother going through and reinvent the wheel. So I look at the guidance that I've received from my mentors and the way I have these type of conversations with mentees still to this day as a way to be able to fast forward time, fast forward through some of those hurdles that you know you're inevitably going to experience, and be able to help see around the corner in a way that you may not be able to see until after you've already passed that roadblock. So I really put a lot of emphasis on mentorship still to this day, 17 years into practice. I'm still looking at my own mentors for guidance and be able to take their experiences and be able to learn from them and then hopefully avoid some of the roadblocks that may be coming around the corner.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think we're never too far into our careers to have mentors, because even though, you might be seeking a mentor at the beginning of your career for a certain reason, you might be seeking another mentor later on for a different reason, right?
Yeah.
We want to know, what do you think are the most important qualities to look for in a mentor, especially for an optometry student?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, certainly I put a lot of emphasis on just aligning values, right? And like just knowing that, what are you looking for in terms of your career? I mean, literally right before us having this conversation, we were talking about, getting tickets to a concert and, valuing the experiences of that concert versus valuing the money. And those are values that you're emphasizing. And that's the same case, whether it's a career-oriented question or life question. So I think aligning your values with a mentor is a crucial part of it, just to kind of ensure that you're literally on the same page. I think clinical experience, if you are looking to specialize in certain aspects of your career, whether that's dry eye or vision therapy or something else, otherwise pediatrics. So looking for a mentor that can help guide you that way, ensuring that they've had the experiences as well. And, you may have a mentor that you're looking at for certain aspects of your career. You may look at one mentor to be like, hey, this person is very business minded. And so I'm going to lean on them to those type of business related questions. And there might be another mentor that you're leaning on for, again, pediatric questions, because that's what you lean on them for. But aligning your values and ensuring that they have the clinical know-how that kind of back them up as well, that's something I put a lot of emphasis on. And just ensuring to know that I can ask them questions and I never feel dumb about asking questions, right? You always want to feel like there's an empathy involved with having somebody who's going to be mentoring you, that they realize that they've been there before and that we've all gone through this, so that, no question is a dumb question, type of feeling. So I tend to look at those type of things as really things that I was emphasize in terms of feeling comfortable enough to be able to have that mentorship or at least have that relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, that's a great point. I find that a good mentor is the one who does not make you feel stupid or uncomfortable for asking the questions, right? Because when you talk with a mentor, you're always, you could be very nervous. You could think that the question you're asking is very dumb, but you're right. We've all been through this somewhat similar journey from start to finish. And so it's never a dumb question. And if the person you're asking makes you feel that way, that is not the mentor for you, right? So I love that. And Dr. Patel, can you share with our listeners a memorable experience with a mentor or a mentee that significantly impacted your optometry journey and your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the, most important people in my life is somebody I practice alongside. Her name is Dr. Wynn. And from our undergrad years, she was looking for guidance and asking me questions about the profession and as a career. And ultimately, I led her to optometry school. She shadowed me throughout her schooling. While she was in school, I actually came and lectured, in which she invited me to lecture at her school. And then once she graduated, she actually then has now come back and we practice alongside each other. So I've seen a full scale journey from going through the application process to literally going through optometry school, graduating, guiding her along the way. And now, we're colleagues that we can trade cases on and literally practice beside each other. So when something comes full circle to that level, it's really kind of fills a big part of my heart, just because I can see how that person is developing from day one. And that's actually the case with another student. Well, she's a student now, but we worked alongside each other. And now she was applying to optometry school, is now in optometry school. And hopefully when she graduates, it might be the same story. So, when you see that happening as an older folk like me, it's nice to be able to kind of look back and be able to say, hey, there's something of a legacy you're keeping behind. And in a way that same person will hopefully pass it down to the next generation as well. So I do really find that if you provide back to your community, whether that's colleagues or otherwise, they are very much in tune to be able to get back to somebody else. And I think at the end of the day, that's what just leads the profession to be that much better moving forward. So that's a big emphasis I put on not just mentorship or being a mentor or a mentee, but really pushing the profession forward is a bigger scale thing there.
Sounds like you're having like full scale Lion King moments with your with your colleagues, just like up on the cliff, holding them up. Like, I created this.
Yeah,
must feel rewarding though.
It feels, honestly, there's times where it feels like it's definitely not a me thing, because that's the fun thing about it, because it's a we thing. But it's really cool to kind of see that. It really is a proud moment of many, for sure.
Yeah.
So I was actually at the lecture, at the chaos lecture at Waterloo that you...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I must have been...
Okay, well, there we go.
So I must have been, I guess, in like second year, I think.
Look at this, another Lion King moment right
another
here.
full circle moment.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're still in the profession, even after that lecture.
No, I thought the lecture, it was memorable. I will tell you that, because I just remember like seeing your clinic and being like, oh, this is so cool. And he's in Toronto, and I knew I wanted to be in Toronto. And so, yeah, here we are.
Nice.
That's really awesome. Yeah. And I was sharing with you guys earlier, I'm going to be doing something later this week where I'm lecturing to first, second, and third year students. So it's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's really neat to be able to see exactly someone like yourself taking it to a whole different level in this podcast. I mean, that's actually the cool thing about it, right? So, and who knows, whoever's listening or watching this is probably going to be like, hey, you'd be doing the same thing and pushing it forward that much more. That's kind of the way it works, right?
Yeah, I love that. How can new graduates working in private practice proactively seek out mentorship? I think that's a main question. Like, how do I find a mentor and build a relationship with a mentor?
Yeah, that's a great one. And honestly, I think in most cases, it just happens relatively organically if you put yourself out there. What I mean by that would be is, as you just kind of mentioned, there was opportunities, whether it's even in the classroom, going to these volunteer things, or the next time you're at the OAO or Vision Expo, or all these different types of events are certainly opportunities for us to be able to meet with colleagues, and you don't know who you're going to hit it off with. And sometimes it just takes a conversation or two of like, hey, you know what? Like, literally like changing numbers and being able to, do you mind if I ask questions? And I just wholeheartedly believe that people are always happy to help. If you ask someone for a responsibility, that person is happy to take on that responsibility as a whole. And sometimes we're just probably a bit too afraid to ask, because you feel like we might be putting them out. And quite frankly, the other person might be just waiting for you to ask. So I think not being overly shy about posing questions, going to conferences, connecting with people, and literally just taking it step by step from there, about being able to asking questions about cases or practice management or anything along the way. But you got to form that relationship by putting yourself out there, for sure. That's always step one.
That really resonates with me, because I don't know if people would really assume that I was a quiet sort of a person, in optometry school, now that I'm on a podcast, like yapping away on social media all the time. But as a student, I was extremely nervous about talking to any OD. Anytime ODs would come and do presentations, I was never one of those students to go up on stage and introduce myself. Never spoke to ODs at conferences, just stuck with my, little friend circle, and then went home. And that was it. And what I realized now, after graduating and mingling more with ODs, is we really are the nicest profession. Like, just optometry is a very friendly profession. Everyone is nice. Everyone wants to help each other. And I just hope that students listening really take that in, because from someone who felt, that way of being way too scared to talk to any OD, and that they'd make fun of me, or that's a stupid question. Why are you talking to me? Who are you? I don't know you. It's just, it's the complete opposite with any OD that you talk to. So just, ask those questions and don't be afraid to just say hello, because we're all really friendly, and then we get really excited that you want to talk to us. That's how it is now.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I get so excited when someone in optometry school comes up and or says or DMs me or says something. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I'll share all my insights with you.
Yeah. And I'm at conferences and people hear my voice and they say, wait, you're Four Eyes. I know your voice, or you're on Instagram.
That's so cool.
And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Hi, come talk to me for like an hour. I'll tell you my whole life.
Well, and that's the thing. I think we all kind of secretly have that feeling. And here's the thing. We can't be afraid to reinvent ourselves, right? Like, to your point, is just we were maybe a certain way before. And as we get a little bit more comfortable being in those conferences, being around bigger scale groups, then what you may have been a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years ago, here's who you are now, right? And so I think that's the other thing, is sometimes we kind of, we can easily put ourselves in a bucket, and the reality is we don't have to.
Very true. Dr. Patel, we want to switch gears just a little bit. This can still work into mentorship, but because you are a private practice owner, I think students would love to learn a little bit more about some private practice insights, right? Because, they'll get that experience when they graduate, but it'll be nice to hear, some thoughts from you and your experiences. And so what inspired you initially to even pursue private practice? And what were some maybe initial challenges you faced or some hesitations you may have had early on?
Yeah. So, I mean, for myself, I've had a pretty interesting combination of schooling and practice, because although I went to undergrad here at Waterloo, and I actually went to optometry school in Boston, I'm a bit of a hybrid because I am a US and Canadian citizen. So I practiced in the States for quite a few years. That's where my family was. And then found myself coming back to Toronto because that's where my heart was. And so when I first came back, it was a completely different landscape, right? Like, in the sense that, how I practiced in the States for quite a few years was very different. And so even just getting myself comfortable with being back in Ontario and Toronto, I didn't know the first thing about OHIP. I didn't know the first thing about billing. I didn't know the first thing about just literally the processes were different. I mean, the profession's similar, but the legalities were different in terms of even medications you can prescribe. So, I was in a combination of ophthalmology OD practice when I first moved back. Kind of helped me get a bit more comfortable with how the profession worked here. But I knew for myself, there was always an itch. I always had an itch of just like, you know what? I do want to do my own thing. And I think a combination of my experiences, both in the States and here, kind of led me to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's something that's missing in terms of a niche in the market where, it doesn't have to be this sterile experience that I remember having as a kid. I could walk into a place and it can feel fun. The profession doesn't have to be boring. And for me, like, when I was a kid, I was like fascinated by the idea that I could walk into my doctor's office and be like, wow, my mind is blown. I can actually see better. I am changing. My world is changing before me. But the practitioner that was helping me see the world better was literally just felt like he was bored out of his mind being there, And I kind of vowed that I was like, okay, when I graduate and when I, go through the process, do what I'm doing, I was like, I kind of want to make it fun. And so, for me, when I wanted to open my own practice, it was just like, hey, you know what? I want to walk into a place that I felt comfortable in, that I want to be at, the vibe that felt right for me. And I think that would attract my patients. So, certainly it was scary at times, for sure. Like, that's a natural instinct or a natural feeling to have. And quite frankly, if you're not scared, something's actually wrong. Like, if you're sleeping through the night with completely like a baby, something's probably not fully right. It's kind of a funny feeling that you just know, like, hey, it is scary, but it's going to be okay. And there might be some rough waters, but the waters are still nice. Jump right in. So I think I had a combination of like knowing that I wanted to do my own thing at some point. There was a an itch I wanted to scratch. And there was something I just wanted to create in what I felt like to be a void in the profession at the time, that I wanted to kind of have that patient experience be a primary focus for us. And, retrospectively, I feel like we've built that, and there's still work to be done, but, we're building it along the way, which is exciting.
I feel like there's always work to be done on a private practice. It's never the perfect practice that you want it to be, but you're always kind of working towards that. But no, that's great, because I feel the same way. I opened a private practice last year and a half ago, I guess. And it was just that autonomy. All of the places where I worked as an associate had pros, had cons, generally overall great places to work. But, at some point you just say like, I just want to practice my way and I want to give my patients my full experience with no barriers. And, I think that's the best way to encourage yourself to get into a private practice setting. So it's great for students listening to basically have you become their private practice mentor, because now they can message you and just kind of ask all of their stupid private practice questions, quote unquote, and not feel shy about it.
Yeah. Oh no, I've been so lucky to have that exact mentorship the other way. And that's the thing, right? Like, and it's funny. I remember asking my mentor, one of my many mentors, and I was like, how can I ever thank you? Like, how can I just what can I do to repay you? And literally his advice, Dr. Mike Rotholtz, his advice was literally just pass it down to the next generation. And I was like, you know what? Like, that's literally the best advice. That's literally the best advice I can possibly get. Like, I'm like, you don't even know when you're mentoring me, because when you said that, you're mentoring me even more, And so that's exactly the advice I got. And I would still give to this day. It's just like, it's just pass it along, right?
Yeah. You're not going to ask your mentees for Taylor Swift concert tickets?
They're just going to float my way. That's it. It's just going to make it. Just for the next chaos lecture, like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to go. And you just have to envision it, and you'll be at the next Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
That's it. My 9-year-old is living on that dream right now.
Yeah.
That's what we're counting on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. I think, creating a fun work environment is so important. And maybe that's actually not important to everyone, but for me, and I think Amrit as well, it's important. You want to like where you go to work every day, right? It's basically your home.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess what would you say are some of the most rewarding aspects of running a private practice, or practices, we should say?
Yeah, I think I've nailed it with the autonomy. Like, there's things where I don't think would fly in many other practices per se, like in terms of whatever your patient base is like. But you walk into our clinic and, it has a certain scent to it. We give sour keys to our patients. I think our music today was Busta Rhymes, and we were just like, that's what we were playing, because that's what I wanted to listen to. And so, I think that authenticity of just what feels right to you. It could be anything. It could be Taylor Swift, or it could be Busta Rhymes, or it could be both. It could be a Busta Rhymes Taylor Swift remix. But if it feels right to you and authentic to you, then your patients are going to see that and they're going to vibe with that. So that's just one thing that I just know for myself, is just when you're creating your own space, if that is something you're creating your own practice or otherwise, is make it feel right for you. Because to your point, is you're going to be the person walking in and out of there, in many cases, just as much as your own home. So if it doesn't feel comfortable for you, then, you're going to be walking into a space that doesn't feel right for a very long time. So take the time to be able to kind of assess what feels right for you and run with it. And it's one of those old sayings, if you build it, they shall come, right?
Yeah. I love that you give sour keys to your patients. We have a beverage bar. And so all the kids come screaming in every time for follow-ups, and they run to get their free juice box every time. And it's true. You create that experience that, I don't think many patients can say that they've been to an eye doctor's, office where they're drinking a cup of coffee out of, a coffee mug in their exam chair, because that's what my patients do. They will just have their Nespresso in a mug, and I'll be checking their VAs. And that's not an experience that, you have at a regular eye doctor's office. But that's the experience I want to create, because I want patients to know that they can lounge here and just kind of not feel rushed, right? And we can just have a normal chat and a conversation. Yeah, it's the little things. I love it. I need to stop by your place one day and grab those sour keys.
Oh yeah, it's open for, you know what? We have patients that literally just come in and they'll just grab a sour key and dip.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Look me up. I'm in your system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Got another one. But that's, you know what? You just nailed it, right? Create something there that patient feels comfortable, you feel comfortable, everyone's happy. And, when you're vibing like that, then you're just creating an environment that person may not need you that day. They're just coming in and get that sour key and leaving, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, they know when they need to have their eyes looked after, they know, you know where they're coming, and that's the loyalty you can create with something small and a fun experience. Because those kids, whether it's juice boxes or sour keys, they're happy kids. And when you have happy kids, you have happy parents.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. And Dr. Patel, just to kind of wrap up some private practice insights for those that are just starting out as a new grads, what steps would you recommend for a new grad who's interested in maybe transitioning into or eventually owning a private practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, certainly one of the first and main things we discussed, having a mentor or having multiple mentors, right? Be able to lean on conversations like this, to be able to take that advice and be able to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I was a bit shy to be able to ask that person for advice, but knowing that if you were to do so, you're going to get that empathetic and comfortable response from them because they've all been there, right? Or we've all been there. So having a mentor is certainly a crucial cornerstone of that for sure. And knowing that there's going to be hurdles along the way. Like I'm a big believer in progress, not perfection. And you kind of nailed it earlier. It's like we always want it to be like perfect. And at the same time, that there's going to be version 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And it's all about just making sure the next version is just better than the previous ones, because there's no shortages of things to be able to manage in a private practice or any practice for that matter. So just knowing that, hey, you know what, I'm going to try and tackle this today, and there's going to be something else I'm going to tackle tomorrow, and that's just part of the process, right?
Yeah, true.
No, that's great.
And we want to also mention, since iRecommend is sponsoring the episode, I think it's really important for students to know that there are resources specifically from iRecommend that can help you when you are opening a private practice. I have personally used them as well. My practice is an iRecommend practice, and I found that it was extremely helpful, as a younger OD that, opened a practice for the first time. And so we'll have some information in the episode description if you guys want to look more into it. But iRecommend does offer the Looking Forward program. So iRecommend basically offers a $10,000 signing bonus for optometry graduates who join an existing iRecommend practice, or if they open their own practice as an iRecommend member. There's the student monocle. So iRecommend basically has a newsletter that's dedicated to OD students with information about private practice, optometry. They have contests, there's support groups, and there's tons of resources on there as well.
iRecommend also has a lot of associate resources. So they have tools and resources for every experience level within a practice, with more being developed on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Including our podcast.
Yeah. So really helpful stuff that you guys can always look into if you're hesitant about opening a practice, or you've just opened and your hair is falling out and you're freaking out. iRecommend is definitely a really good organization to be a part of, just to have all those resources accessible to you guys.
Yeah, I think we covered so much today, and I kind of want to just leave it up to you to give any last pieces of advice or give some insights, or you've given so much insight already, but anything you want to end on.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to end on this, but certainly what you just mentioned with iRecommend, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals will take you extremely far. Because, as they say, this is like the case with when you're a young adult, and this is the same case as you get older. It's like you are going to be like the 5 people you're most around. So if you can surround yourself with great like-minded individuals, I was debating when I was in private practice or starting out my practice, I was debating between a couple different groups to join. iRecommend being one of them, and a few other groups that are across Canada. And what I found was, when I realized that the people that I leaned upon, the mentors that I had led along the way, and people that I was asking for advice, they actually all ended up being iRecommend members just by sheer coincidence. I didn't realize it till I was like, this 80% of the people I'm asking these questions to are all iRecommend members. And I realized that just surrounding yourself with that like-minded individual will, whether it's a group like iRecommend or otherwise, is going to take you extremely far. So I'm super happy I've joined iRecommend. It's been 13 years along the way, and it's been incredible. I'm constantly learning, and that's really something that I'd put a lot of emphasis on for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Patel. Would you mind just finishing up this episode by letting the listeners know how they can reach you and how they can force you to be their mentor if they need any advice.
Put me right on the spot, eh? Okay, amazing. I'll give you my home address.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and look forward to be able to help in any way that I can. Certainly the best way to be able to reach me is via email. So my email is my first name last name od@gmail.com. So it's ritesh.patelod@gmail.com. And certainly on Instagram at CNBC Eye Care. You can always DM us there, or we're quite active online as well.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Future Focus, the NextGEN OD Canada podcast.
You can find us on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. For episode summaries and more resources, visit us at eyecarebusiness.ca.
Be sure to follow NextGEN OD on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for updates, news, and more insights into the world of optometry.
We'd like to give a special thanks once again to our episode sponsor, I Recommend, for supporting this podcast and the next generation of optometrists across Canada.
Until next time, stay focused on your future.